The NBA's top draft pick is going to come out of the Big 12, but will he be from Lawrence, Kansas or Provo, Utah?
You are Locked On College Basketball, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What's up, folks? Happy Halloween, and welcome into the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, a daily national college hoops show, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We are your spooky co-hosts for today. I'm Andy Patton. He is Isaac Schade, and you're joining us at the place to get your college basketball content every single day. I want to thank all of you who have made this show your first listen or your first watch of the day. And of course, give a special shout out to those everyday listeners and those of you hanging out with us in the Locked On College Basketball Discord community. Today's episode is brought to you by Mazda. Like all college basketball players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. So stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. Well, Isaac, it's not only Halloween, it is the final day of November, and most crucially, the final day of October. We're not quite into Feast Week and all of that yet, but we are getting very, very close. Final day of October, also the final episode before we have real college basketball games that count in the standings to preview, which is what we're going to be bringing you next Monday. But for today, it is also our final conference preview show. We've done 8 of these. This will be our 9th and final conference preview and our final among the Power 5 conferences, as we have already covered the SEC, ACC, Big East, Big 10. We've also covered the Atlantic 10, the Mountain West, the American, and the WCC. And now, of course, we're talking Big 12 basketball. If you want to check out the rest of these conference previews, we will have a link to them on YouTube. You can find a playlist for all of them there. But Isaac, I'm so excited to talk about what has been one of the most dominant basketball conferences of the last couple of years. There are seemingly innumerable different storylines that we could talk about with this league, the surprising drop of Kansas, the incredible success of Houston, BYU, the freshmen. There is so many different things that are going on in the Big 12. Where do you want to start?
I want to start by asking you what you're wearing for Halloween.
Ooh, we're going out, but my wife got Layla a very adorable cow costume, which is all I've been paying attention to because it's incredibly cute. I have no idea what I'm going to be wearing. I'm sure she's got something picked out for me.
Fair enough. Okay. Now, what I actually want to talk about is Darryn Peterson and AJ DYBANTSA, which is the biggest revelation of the last 5 minutes of my life. Andy, we just went to BYU's roster where each player pronounces their own name.
Yeah. And
holy smoke, I've been saying AJ DYBANTSA for the past 3 years, Andy.
Yes.
DYBANTSA.
Yeah, DYBANTSA.
DYBANTSA. Yeah, so that's new in my life. But these two young men, with apologies to, by the way, multiple other high-level freshmen that are in this conference, but these two dudes, Andy, it's such a fun storyline because at almost every recruiting site, they finished 1-2 in some order, with Peterson sliding by DYBANTSA at 247 Sports, for example. But they are going to vie for not only Big 12 Freshman of the Year, but Big 12 Player of the Year, for All-Americans, for National Player of the Year, and for the first pick in the draft, because just about every NBA draft board I've looked at, they are 1-2 in some order. Andy, I love that they're in the same conference. Give it to me all season long.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun to watch these two. And they're very different players, which I think is kind of a fun element of this too. Like, you know, and then obviously we're not talking ACC, so we're not talking Cam Boozer, but Boozer also is a very different player than these two guys, which I think just makes it a little bit more fun when kind of evaluating these three super high level freshmen. Peterson, obviously a lead guard, extraordinarily talented scorer, perhaps the most gifted scorer in college basketball. DYBANTSA, also an incredible scorer. I think there's a bit more question about him on the defensive side of the ball, and he's somebody who's very, very good at drawing fouls and getting to the free throw line, which will be a very translatable skill to the NBA. But I'm curious how that works in the Big 12. There's so many different things that are going to make watching those two guys play in this conference so much fun. And like you said, I mean, it's Chris Senac, Isaiah Harwell, Kingston Flemings at Houston, Koa Pete, and Braden Burries at Arizona. Like, there are so many great freshmen in this league. Tunde Yesufu at Baylor. I knew there was another big one I wanted to mention.
Yes,
so it's going to be so much fun.
Also at Arizona.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's going to be really fun to watch all of these guys this upcoming season. But ultimately, Isaac, I think the other big question for this league is, can anybody stop Houston? Because they haven't really, it feels like they've barely been challenged. They had that one wonky loss at home to Texas Tech when JT Toppin got ejected like 40 seconds into the game.
No, wait, didn't they win? I thought they won that game.
I thought that Texas Tech won that game even after Toppin got ejected. I thought.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
Right, but it's like Houston, it was like one of their only losses. Like they won this league by 4 games last year. One of the most competitive, top-heavy conferences in college basketball. Houston rode to an easy 4-game win. They won it by 2 games the year before that. Last year they did win the Big 12 championship, tournament championship. The year before that they did not. But either way, this team has been an absolute wrecking ball since they have joined the Big 12. And frankly, there doesn't seem to be any reason to think that won't continue to happen, even if the rest of this league is still extremely talented this year.
Yeah, Andy, I think the hope for those that hope to knock off the Cougars is what you have talked about a couple times this offseason, is Houston probably having to rely on freshmen more so than they have in the past. Now, even with that said, here comes MILOS UZON. Here comes Emmanuel Sharp. Here comes JoJo Tugler, right? That's 60% of your starting lineup. So they're going to have to rely on freshmen more, but they've got those more returners than that. But those 3 returners alone bring you what you need to bring those freshmen along. And so look, until somebody, pries the Big 12 out of their cold, dead fingers, I'm going to just keep rocking with Houston until somebody else takes it back, which is wild to say when we think back to the just juggernaut of a run that Kansas went on for basically the 2 decades before this. But Andy, for Houston to come in and do what they've done from the American, not only no drop off, it's almost like they've stepped it up a level since then. I mean, it's just, and to think about what Houston was prior to KELVIN SAMPSON, this storyline is nothing short of incredible, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's been so much fun to watch Houston be this absolute dominating force when so few people expected that they would come in with this level of success. But on the flip side of that is that we have seen a lot more struggles from Kansas the last couple of years than we're at all used to, than really anybody has seen from Kansas for decades and decades. And obviously with Bill Self still at the helm, to see this team fall off the way that they have is really unprecedented. And I think, again, another huge question for this league, can they get back? I think as much as it's unfair to pin everything on Hunter Dickinson because he was a very talented offensive player, them struggling did coincide with the 2 years that he was there. And now with him gone, I think you kind of expect that the offense is going to be a little bit more egalitarian. And also it's going to be run through a guard as opposed to being run through a center. And I think for Bill Self, I think that's going to be a little bit more comfortable for them. I think the big key for them is the development of their kind of role players and players they brought in the transfer portal with the intention of them being kind of role players like Melvin Council and Trey White, who are guys who I think are going to be able to fill those roles. And then you have somebody like Marco Jackson coming back from his injury, Flory Badunga, who's going to be one of the better bigs in the conference, specifically on the defensive end, but he's a highly efficient offensive player as well. Like, I think Kansas has the recipe. I think they have the right mix of players combined with Coach Self to be much better than they have been the last couple of years. But again, like, finishing top 3 or top 4 in this league is really, really hard with Houston, as well as Iowa State and Arizona, and now BYU, and then Texas Tech. Like, this is a really tough league. I don't know that I feel that confident that Kansas will be a top 3, even top 5 team, but I think they will be better than they have been the last couple of years.
I think that's a good way to say it, Andy. And while we used to just give them the benefit of the doubt, I think the way you just said that, I'm not confident. I could see it, but I'm not confident in it. And part of that, Andy, is literally half of the 16 teams in this conference. So 8 of the 16 teams are top 40 preseason at both Torvik and KenPom, Andy. And so it's going to be another knockdown, drag out fight, and we'll see what happens very quickly. Obviously, we had some big time teams last year. Houston finishing as the national runner up. Poor Emmanuel Sharp. I can't get the image out of my head. Texas Tech losing in the Elite 8. And then 5 other teams in the NCAA tournament. Just one coaching change, Andy, in the Big 12. We got Ross Hodge coming in to West Virginia from Denton, Texas, from North Texas, while Darren DeVries heads out and goes off to Indiana this year. That said, Andy, anybody you're looking at that you think is on the hot seat potentially this season?
Yeah, there's got to be a couple of guys that I think are squarely on the hot seat. One of them is Bobby Hurley, who just has not had a lot of success at Arizona State and has been even worse since they have made it into the Big 12, which is not a shocker necessarily. But for this team, and they've turned over their entire roster. Basically, they spent a good amount of money in the transfer portal. If they don't deliver this year, and I'm not even sure what delivering is, but I don't project this team to finish in the top 10 in the Big 12. And I think if they're outside the top 10 and not particularly close to being on the bubble, I don't know how you keep employing Bobby Hurley at Arizona State. Similarly, Wes Miller at Cincinnati, I think his hot seats, it's a little bit less warm than Bobby Hurley's, but for Miller, like, it feels like they really got to get into the NCAA tournament at Cincinnati this year. Again, for some of the same reasons, they spent a lot of money. They brought in a really talented transfer portal class this year. And if he's not able to deliver for the Bearcats, I think that might be it for him at Cincinnati. And then this one's more 50-50. I'm not fully sure Jerome Tang is on the hot seat. The buyout is a big issue for Kansas State right now. But after that really great first year, Tang hasn't really delivered for the Wildcats the last few years. Another talented roster. But if they don't bring it home and get into the tournament, or at least sniff the NCAA tournament, they're going to have some tough decisions to make in Little Manhattan.
Little Apple, Andy.
Little Apple.
There you go. Look, only reason I'm so firm with that is because I got called out by Kansas State fans for getting that wrong one time. So I have never gotten it wrong since. Here's what I hope happens. If Bobby Hurley gets the boot at Arizona State, I want him to land a Big East job so that we have both a father-son combo and a brother-brother duo out of 4 of the 11 head coaches in that conference. I think it'd be super fun. Big 12, all 16 members intact, so no conference realignment this season. Thank goodness there. Maybe we can figure out who is in each conference now. Andy, we talked a lot about AJ DYBANTSA and Darryn Peterson. Who else are on our preseason award predictions list? Because, look, let's be honest, they're both going to be on there, folks. Let's not beat around the bush. Who's going to join them, and who's going to be our Big 12 preseason player of the year? We'll give that answer to you and more coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about Mazda and this segment, which is Mazda's moving the game forward moment. For those who believe it's not just about playing the game, it's about redefining it. There are moments that do more than put points on the board. They move crowds, they move culture, and they keep the game moving forward. And this week, that moment for me was Yaxel Lendeborg's performance against St. John's in Madison Square Garden last weekend. He transfers up from UAB, and everybody wonders, can he still continue to do it? And he proves that he can move the game forward. He is a dude no matter what level. 25-10 in that game, 4 assists, 1 block in Michigan's 96-94 overtime win in the Garden. Love to see it. And when you follow what moves you, the unexpected is only the beginning. And just like there's more to every highlight, there's more to a Mazda vehicle. Mazda, move and be moved. Andy, we move now into our preseason award predictions for the Big 12. For those of you who are new with us, we'll give you our 5 first-team players. We ain't going more than that because we're people that can be decisive, dadgummit. And then Andy will give some individual award predictions as well: player, transfer, freshman, and coach of the year. One of the rules we do employ for ourselves is that we can have no more than 1 player from each team on our preseason all-conference. Andy, I'm going to imagine, because of the conversation we just had, that I know at least 2 of the players on your roster. Am I right in that guess? And if so, who are the other 3 players joining them?
You are right in that guess. And I have a feeling, having done a lot of these now, that you probably could guess all of the players on this list. I think that this is perhaps the easiest conference to make these choices on. For a couple other conferences, we've had like 4 players that felt easy and then differed on the 5th one, or some conferences where it was like, there's a lot of different players you could pick here. But for for the Big 12, it kind of just came together somewhat obviously, for me at least. Yes, we have Darryn Peterson from Kansas and AJ DYBANTSA from BYU. Those are the two easy ones, the two freshmen, two of the best, likely best teams in the conference. And again, two of the top three freshmen in the country, and arguably the top two freshmen in the country. After that, you go JT Toppin at Texas Tech, All-American, a strong candidate for National Player of the Year, a dominant two-way big for the Red Raiders and Coach Grant McCasland. And after that, you go look at Houston, the projected front runner in this league. And if you're going to go somebody at Houston, I think you're probably going with MILOS UZON. Yes, there's an argument for Tugler. There's even an argument for Sharp, but UZON is the straw that stirs the drink for what I think is probably going to be the best team in the Big 12. So you can't ignore him here. And then last, you got to go with the guy who was one of the top scorers in all of college basketball last year, even if he's at a new school. That's PJ HAGGERTY at Kansas State. We've seen Jerome Tang have struggled with some front court things, but for the most part, he has been electric with his smaller guards. And we've seen that, dating back to Marquise Noel when he first started at Kansas State, and Tyler Perry and Doug McDaniel. And now we're feeling pretty strong that PJ HAGGERTY is going to have a really big year for the Wildcats. So for me, that's my top five. And I feel pretty confident that those are the five guys you got to pick for this list here.
Yes, sir. It absolutely is. I differ from you not, my friend. And as you said, this was a relatively easy exercise for me. I sat down, I wrote down those five names, and then I thought, is it even worth me processing to see if there's anybody else that would crack? And so I did think about it, but legitimately, this was a less than 5-minute exercise for me. It's funny, you mentioned it. I considered a similar thing. Is I thought about less so CINCINNATI or less so with Emmanuel Sharp, but I pretty heavily did come back and think about switching out Uzon for JoJo Tugler, just because I think he's going to take on a bigger offensive role this year than he had last year. So, if I'm remembering correctly, he led Houston in scoring in their win over Mississippi State in their exhibition game. And it's just like that kind of thing. I'm like, if JoJo is going to do that and basically be the National Defensive Player of the Year, but ultimately, I almost went verbatim phrase that you said. Uzan is the straw that stirs the drink for Houston. And because of that, I think that's the obvious pick here. So give me that as my fifth. Andy, we are in quintet alignment. I wish I had a fun word for that. I don't, but yes, we agree on all that. That said, of those five players, let's go individual awards now. Andy, who is your player of the year preseason edition from the Big 12?
Yeah, I'm going with Peterson, and I think you could probably make an argument for, four of these five guys fairly convincingly. I think Kansas State would have to finish in the top three for it to be PJ HAGGERTY, and I do not think Kansas State's going to finish in the top three. So I think he's very unlikely to win it, but Uzon could win it if Houston wins the league by 4 games. Toppin could win it because he's projected to be one of the best players in all of college basketball. And then both the freshmen, Peterson and DYBANTSA, I think could win it. But I'm going to go with Peterson. I think I think there's a very real chance that he is the leading scorer in college basketball, that he averages like 23, 24 points per game for Kansas, which is just unreal to think about. But I think this team is tailored towards his skill set. He's going to have the ball in his hands a ton. And unless Kansas bottoms out, outside the top 7 of the Big 12, which would be very surprising considering how much better we feel about this roster. I think as long as Kansas is top 5, as long as they're comfortably a single-digit seed in the NCAA tournament, and Darryn Peterson averages over 20 points per game, he is going to be the player of the year. And on that note, I think that would put him in the conversation as a first-team All-American and unquestionably the number 1 pick in the NBA draft if he's able to do that.
Ooh, baby. You know what, Andy? I too favor Darryn Peterson over AJ DYBANTSA. I'm trying to think it through every time I say it and get his name right. But I'm not going to go with either of them for my pick for preseason Big 12 Player of the Year. I'm going to go with JT Toppin. Andy, can you remind me who is the reigning Big 12 Player of the Year? Do you remember by chance?
Is it Toppin?
I'm pretty sure it's Toppin, but now I'm second guessing myself as I think about it. Here we go. I got it pulled up. Yeah, it's JT Toppin, baby.
It should be.
Look, somebody's going to have to dethrone this man. And I know that these dudes are all coming for him. And as just about any of the 4 other than HAGGERTY could do it, because I don't think Kansas State's good enough. But man, I think JT is just going to have a massive year, especially with Darryn Williams gone. I know Watts is going to be great filling in for him. But man, for me and my money's worth, I'm sticking with Toppin until somebody else dethrones him, which could be this year, obviously. But I like it.
Looking at transfer of the year, I mean, obviously looking at our list here, we have a couple of freshmen on the list, a couple of returners, and then one transfer on our top 5 in PJ Haggerty. Is that the direction that you went with your pick for transfer of the year in the conference?
It is. Absolutely it is, because the rest of that top 4 are either freshmen or at the same school they were at. So almost by definition and default, I went with Haggerty. But Andy, can I just beef for a second here?
Please.
The Big 12 preseason player of the year, they went with me, JT Toppin. They're smart. The pick for their newcomer of the year, meaning transfer, because they also have freshmen. I don't know why we call newcomer and also have freshmen. That's dumb language, by the way, because the freshmen are also newcomers. Anyway, I rest my whatever. I digress. That's what I'm looking for. The preseason newcomer of the year is Lawan Watts, but he's not on the preseason All Big 12 team. You know who is on the preseason All Big 12 team? PJ Haggerty, who, if I'm looking at it correctly, hang on. Yep. He's the only transfer on that list. How on earth, Big 12, are you going to have PJ Haggerty on your preseason all conference team? And he's the only transfer on there, but he's in transfer of the year. That logically makes less than 0 cents, Andy Patton.
That is very strange. I will say this. I really like Lawan Watts.
I do too. Oh, I'm not mad. I'm not mad about that pick. I just your logic of how you got to that point makes no sense at all.
Yeah, I agree. It doesn't make any sense. I think Lawan Watts is going to be very good. He's on my short list of other great transfers in the Big 12 that I think I would consider for this list. But the pick is Haggerty. I'm picking Haggerty as well. I would mention, obviously, Lawan Watts. I'd also mention Rob Wright at BYU. He's not a newcomer to the conference. I suppose that's part of their challenge there since he was in the Big 12 last year. But Anthony Roy at Oklahoma State, again, I don't think they're going to be very good, but I think he's going to put up huge numbers. Michael Ratai at Baylor, potentially Agbim as well at Baylor, the Wyoming transfer. Like, they got some talented players on that team, but it's impossible to pick somebody other than PJ Haggerty, especially for us, if we're going to have him on our 5-man all-conference team.
I think clearly what we've learned here, Andy, is that we are smarter than the Big 12 preseason voters.
That must be the ruling, right?
Clearly that's the way to go here. Freshman of the year, Andy, this gets interesting. Although I think with what we've already both said and with your pick for Big 12 player of the year, I think we might be landing in Lawrence, Kansas. Is that true for both of us? Because it is for me.
Yeah, definitely true for me. Got to go Peterson for freshman of the year. Obviously, the honorable mention would be DYBANTSA. The other candidates, we mentioned Chris Cenac, we mentioned Koa Pete, Tunde Yesufu. This is a league chock full of incredibly talented freshmen. There's going to be a whole bunch of them. If you were to make a roster of just the 5 best freshmen in the Big 12, that's a team that could compete with a lot of other conferences, all conference team. But it starts with Peterson, and he's the pick for me here.
All right, Andy, last one, coach of the year. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Grant McCasland. I've been pretty high on Texas Tech. I know a lot of people are concerned about the loss of Darryn Williams, and justifiably so. But to have JT Toppin back, to have Christian Anderson back, who I think is going to be a big breakout candidate, I'm not alone in that thinking. He's a very popular breakout pick for a reason, especially after his performance in the FIBA U19 World Cup. Between those two guys, between Lawan Watts and Tyree Bryan and a few other players coming in, I think Texas Tech very reasonably could finish second in this conference. In fact, I project them to finish second behind Houston. And if they're within a game or two, I think you give McCasland that award over Kelvin Sampson. I know it's hard to not go. If they win it by 3 or more games, again, if Houston does, you got to go Sampson, I think. But if McCasland's close, I think he gets the award here and gets recognized for being one of the better coaches in college basketball.
I love that pick, Andy. It's so true. Everything you just said about Coach McCasland, he's phenomenal. By the way, shouts to my sister-in-law, Toby, who is staying with us at our house right now. Massive Texas Tech fan. She's a grad. And anyway, shouts to you, Toby. I'm going Kelvin Sampson here, Andy, for the three-peat. And I know when we think Coach of the Year, people are always reticent to do stuff like that. But guess what? Scott Drew had a three-peat in 2021 and 22. So why not Kelvin, especially, yes, as you said, if they dominate the way they do. But here would be the hilarious one. And you know how we always joke about Coach of the Year awards when it's like, oh, isn't it cute that team did better than we all thought they would do?
Right.
What if Kansas, the little engine that could, finishes like second or third, and everybody's like, oh, that's cute. Little old Billy Self found his way near the and then Bill Self is your coach of the year, which, by the way, this is the absurdity of coach of the year voting. Last time Bill Self won this award outright was the 16-17 season, Andy. What are we doing? Crazy. You know, like that tells you everything you need to know about the validity of coach of the year awards. Keep going.
Kansas finishing 4th and Bill Self winning coach of the year is quite possibly the funniest possible outcome that could happen with this award this upcoming season. Isaac, let's talk tiers. We're going to talk Big 12 tiers. We're also going to make our predictions for who's going to win this conference championship, who's going to win the Big 12 tournament, and how many of these teams might end up dancing in the NCAA tournament. We're going to get to all of that coming up here in just a second. But first, folks, it's almost the weekend, so it's time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more each time you order, this player delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. We're talking Duke. Cam Boozer delivered in a major way. He's not the freshman we're talking about today on the show, but his 24 points, 23 rebounds, and 6 assists against Tennessee in an exhibition game was absolutely nuclear. He was incredible in that game when the pressure was on. Boozer came through without any hesitation or delay. And if you've been watching, we know this. We know Cam Boozer. He looked great in their first exhibition game as well. He is on a streak right now, and the season has not even started yet. And just like Boozer delivered for the Blue Devils, DoorDash delivers on your Saturdays. With DoorDash Streaks, you can save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season, and you can save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through November 18th. Today's episode is also brought to you by FanDuel. Folks, the NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of a game or you just want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who's going to score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And we got odds for the Big 12 championship, since that's what we're talking about to close out the show. Houston, of course, in the lead at plus 145, followed by BYU at plus 500. And then you get Texas Tech at plus 600, Kansas at plus 700. Iowa State is next at plus 800. Folks, right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Isaac, closing it out, our final segment before real college basketball games next Monday. I cannot wait. We are continuing our conversation here, talking about the Big 12 and looking at the tier rankings for this conference. I think I've done the last couple of them, so you knocked it out this week. Put these teams into tiers. I'm going to tell you what I like, what I maybe don't like about your tiers. Hit me with what you got.
What I got is sadness, Andy. I just realized, since this is our Halloween show, my son is dressing up as Yoshi, and I'm so sad I didn't bring his Yoshi head to wear, but I found something sitting here in my office. This is my mallard. This is Marvin the mallard.
That is indeed a mallard.
So I just thought I got him last year as a white elephant gift.
There you go.
And he is now a doorstop in my office. So I'm just going to hold, as a shout for Halloween, I'm going to hold Marvin the mallard while I tell you. It'd be better
if this was the Big Ten preview, since there's ducks there, but that, it's fine.
Quack you very much, Mr. Ducksworth. Little Mighty Ducks reference there. Okay, Andy, here we go. Tiers. At the top, I've got Houston, Texas Tech, and BYU in the top tier. BYU feels the most slippery of this upper tier to me. I'll let you give your response to that in a little bit if you agree or not. Tier 2, just behind them, and I got no sort of feeling on the order of this one, right? Like, I feel like Houston is at the top of that top tier. With this one, I could see it's Kansas, Arizona, and Iowa State to me. There's a clear and definitive top 6 in this conference. That's what I feel very strong in. But these 3, 4, 5, and 6, give them to me in any order. I don't even care. After that, for me, is Baylor and Cincinnati. I'm believing in that Cincinnati transfer class that you talked about earlier in the show. I'm buying it. And I think while Baylor has fallen off a little bit the last couple of years from when they were at the top of this conference, I think they do still have enough talent to be right here in the mix. After that that's my break of tournament teams, by the way, spoiler alert. After that, My fourth tier has 4 teams: Kansas State, TCU, West Virginia, and Oklahoma State. So purple and then orange and yellow all together for the fourth tier. And then bringing up the rear is the other team in the state of Utah in this conference, Utah, and then Arizona State, UCF, and Colorado. That's my bottom feeders. Andy, give me your feedback.
Yeah, I honestly don't really have a ton in terms of the order. There's a few tier things that I might move around a little bit, most notably, which you alluded to. I would probably lump BYU into tier 2. I think Houston and Texas Tech.
Cool. I like that, Andy. Okay.
Yeah, I think Houston, Texas Tech are a step above. I think I would probably have BYU at the top of segment or of tier 2. So it's just a minor difference there. But to me, BYU, Kansas, Arizona, Iowa State, I think you could order that a couple of different ways. Iowa State, it feels weird to have them at the bottom of tier 2, but with the Taman Lipsey injury, there's a little bit less certainty with that team. Milan Momcilovic, like what's he going to look like? Joshua Jefferson's going to be great. Like I think it's a good team, but it feels like they're kind of right at that bottom of tier 2, but everybody else could be kind of interchangeable there. And then for tier 3, I agree, Baylor and Cincinnati. I think I would bump Kansas State up in there, and maybe I'm buying into it a little bit too much with Haggerty and that kind of diminutive guard situation that Jerome Tang seems to always find himself in. But toss Kansas State into tier 3 for me, and then the rest of tier 4 I'm good with: TCU, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. I'm a little bit skeptical of Oklahoma State still, but I think that they're on the correct trajectory, and I'm excited to see what Anthony Roy can do for them. And then I agree on tier 5. I would probably mix the order around a little bit. I think Colorado at the bottom. I think I would actually have UCF at the top.
UCF. Okay.
That's about the only difference. I would have Arizona State 15th. I would have Utah 14th. I would have UCF 13th. But other than that, it's the same teams in the same tier, just slightly moved around.
Okay. I like it. Marvin, what do you think?
I just want to see Jackson Shellstad healthy. Thank you very much.
Oh, okay. Thanks, Duck. There you go. Wrong conference, but nice try. Andy, let's get to our Big 12 championship picks. Who you got for the regular season and the conference tournament? Is it a three-peat for Houston on the regular season side? And what about the conference tournament?
Yeah, I'm going Houston on the regular season side. It is a three-peat for them. Again, having Uzon and Sharp back, having Tugler back, having a dynamic freshman class. Again, I think it'll be interesting to see how Coach Sampson kind of integrates the freshmen. I mean, he's been very adamant about not playing freshmen a ton and has talked about that even this year. But those 3 guys are incredibly talented and they will play big minutes. And I think for them, it's also like, where are some of those other minutes on the wing? You know, is it Miller? Is it Ramon Walker? Like kind of where do they get some of those production? Is it Harwell? Like, does he just play a huge role right away? But not enough questions for me to not have them as the regular season winner. I doubt it's by 4 games. Of course, I would have said that last year, so who knows? But I think they're going to win it. However, conference tournament to me is a bit more of a crapshoot, and I'm taking a wild card here. I'm taking Iowa State. I know I just talked about them at like the bottom of tier 2, but if they get healthy, I feel like that's a team that could just be absolutely rolling. TJ Otzelberger is a phenomenal coach, and I think once he gets kind of the sense of what his team is going to look like, again, Joshua Jefferson, I think, is one of the better, more versatile forwards in the game. Momcilovic, if he starts hitting his outside shots, Blake Buchanan is a nice addition. Like, I like a lot of this Iowa State roster, and I just have a feeling that that's a team that's going to be playing some really good basketball in late February, early March, and is perfectly capable, having seen these teams a couple of times, of winning a few games in a row and suddenly going from like, maybe being in the 7-8 seed conversation to being in the 5-6 seed conversation with a few wins in that conference tournament.
Andy, for those who didn't get a chance to hear it, our Iowa State team preview was literally yesterday's show with our great host of Locked On Cyclones, Nick Moravets. Go check that one out. A lot of fun. And Andy, by the way, Iowa State was the last non-Houston team to win this NCAA tournament, with Milan Momcilovic going off in that game back in 2024. So I like that pick. I'm going with Houston in the double-double because they're going to do it. All due respect to the Cyclones and everybody else. You're wrong and I'm right. Let's deal with that. NCAA tournament. Last year, the Big 12 put 7 teams into this thing. Andy, can they jump back above that this year? Last year, they were the 3rd highest ranked conference. Fell off massively, Andy. Massive fall off for the Big 12. Can they get it back this year?
Yeah, I think they're going to get 8. I think they're going to have one more team. Some of the obvious ones, obviously, Houston is going to be in, Texas Tech, Kansas, Arizona, Iowa State, and BYU. I think those all feel fairly confident for me in those teams making it. I think Scott Drew's a good enough coach, even with the new look roster, that Baylor's going to get in. And then give me Kansas State. Again, maybe I'm too high on the Wildcats, but give me Jerome Tang's team sneaking into the NCAA tournament as the 8th team out of this conference.
All right, Andy, I also have 8 teams, but just one swap. I don't have Kansas State. As I alluded to earlier, I am buying Cincinnati to make the NCAA tournament and help Wes Miller save his job. But in so doing, I might have just ruined Jerome Tang. So we'll see what happens there. You guys, as we said, this is the last. Next time we talk to you, it'll be Monday. It'll be game day. We're going to be previewing games, Andy. I absolutely cannot wait. Buckle up. The season is ahead of us, you guys. I'm full of butterflies, and it's just going to be incredible. So make sure to be with us all season long. We will be with you in and out all the time. If you have not yet joined the Locked On College Basketball Discord to talk with us about college basketball all the time, we'd love to see you in there. If you've not subscribed to the show on video and audio, do that as well. As always, I want to say apologies to the Lawyer family. I want to say cheers to the Wild Popes. I want to give shouts to the McBruins. You got anything, Marvin? No, I'm good. Okay, great. In that case, we'll talk to you again on Monday. But until then, peace.